Two new polls out today. More bad news for the Albanese government. The first reporting 51% of voters hold Labor responsible for high inflation, despite the Treasurer Jim Chalmers' spin and the billions he spent in cost of living handouts. The Resolve Political Monitor shows Labor in trouble too, slipping 1 point to a terminally low primary vote of 28%, the coalition remaining steady at 37%. The other poll, this one conducted by Wolf and Smith, shows voters deserting Labor, losing 4 percentage points since May 2022. The coalition again remaining steady. For more on this and the other top stories of the day, I'm joined now by Sky News political reporter Cam Redden and the Daily Telegraph's reporter James Willis. Well, gents, welcome. James, I'll go to you first. We've seen the spin in overdrive in the last couple of weeks, trying to win the voters over, going hard on the Reserve Bank. That poll's pretty clear. They're not moving. And if you look at those numbers, if you go back to that second poll, the May 2022, it's almost this time last year when the Prime Minister really lost the signature, ask he had of this term, which was the voice. He's never really recovered in the polls since then.
Yeah, Peter, and I think they lost an awful lot of time, the Labor government, trying to get the voice over the line, and that distracted ultimately from the key issue that everyone across Australia was concerned about, which was cost of living. And we're now beginning to see the promises that the Prime Minister made more than 2 years ago when he was first elected. He's promised for a cheaper Australia, cheaper mortgages, cheaper energy, all that sort of thing, and what they have managed to do in the time that they've been in government. And we saw today that this big promise for 1.2 million new houses by 2030, not a single house has been built under that major plan. We've had to give everyone a $275 energy bill relief. People are smart enough to realise that's robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's just putting money onto a credit card that we'll have to pay down the track. The cost of living is not getting any cheaper. We've seen that people that are in unions or people that are linked to government jobs, public service, jobs attached to the NDIS, they seem to be doing quite well. But for the average person in these mortgage belts of Australia that don't qualify for a lot of the government relief that's been handed out over the past few years, people are beginning to wonder what the Prime Minister's plan is to get them out of this. And I think the cheap shots at the Reserve Bank didn't do them any favour in the last few days as well. So they're certainly in big trouble. We know, and I heard your editorial off the top, we know that Anthony Albanese didn't win the last election by a Rudd-like majority or a Hawke-like majority. It is very, very tight. And if people don't start getting a discount on their mortgages and start seeing some of these things come under control, then the Prime Minister is in big trouble heading into the next poll.
It's interesting too, it's often perception, not reality. So they don't have to be themselves in trouble on their mortgage yet, but they know it's coming and they've got to see that the government's got a plan, that they've got adults in charge. And I think that's where the government's shooting itself in the foot. Cam, we've got data out today, and this underscores a point James is making there about, people in the public service payroll doing quite well compared to others who are struggling. 2/3 of the jobs created under Labor are taxpayer jobs. 600,000 people joined the jobs market in the last 2 years. They were employed in public sector roles. Only about 300,000 were jobs added to the private sector. Now, this is a real issue because it's the same people who are earning money as taxpayers in the private sector, bankrolling these government jobs, which is all a part, I think, of Labor's gaming the system to keep us out of recession, keep bringing in people, keep the population nice and high, keep spending up big, but it's all artificial money.
Yeah, and it goes back to that notion of a per capita recession, Peter. Any economist will tell you that a per capita recession is what people actually feel. That means that you're going backwards, even if the economy on the numbers and the numerical basis of it might be going forward. Because, of course, if you bring more people in, you're producing more as an economy just on the pure ones and zeros of it, and therefore the economy grows. But per head, it means people are going backwards, and 6 straight quarters now is what we've been in. On that notion, too, of the idea that government spending is keeping us out of recession, there's some competitive economic thinking about this, because one argument that is being made is that, well, perhaps if the government had scaled back its spending sooner, that might have cleared the way for the Reserve Bank to deliver 1 or 2 rate cuts by now, therefore allowing private spending to rise in its place as government spending fell off. So like a levelling out of the scales, if you like. So that kind of leads us into this game of chicken now, 9 months from an election. Well, does the Reserve Bank cut rates, hope the government scales back on spending, and potentially risk inflation going even higher? Or does the government roll the dice? Does it cut its spending and hope the Reserve Bank cuts rates, but risk sending us into recession right before an election? So, look, it's all about timing, and none of it really bodes well for the government, I've got to say.